If you clicked on this video, it wasn't random. It wasn't algorithm or curiosity or boredom that brought you here. It was quantum observation. Your consciousness observed this title, this thumbnail, this moment, and in that observation, you collapsed a probability wave that has been waiting since before you were born to deliver exactly what you're about to receive. The most powerful quantum observation in human history isn't happening in laboratories or universities. It's happening right now, through you, as you read these words. And if you ignore this, if you dismiss what's being transmitted, if you let this moment pass as just another video, you'll miss the one thing that changes everything about how reality responds to you, how manifestation occurs through you, how consciousness itself is using you to observe reality into forms that serve your highest evolution. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't clickbait trying to hook your attention. This is quantum mechanics meeting mystical truth at the exact point where your consciousness has reached the frequency to understand what scientists have proven but can't explain, and what mystics have known but couldn't prove until now. The observer effect, the scientific fact that observation changes reality, isn't just physics principle, it's the operating system of existence itself. And you're not just an observer. You're the observer, the one consciousness observing itself through infinite perspectives, and this particular perspective called you is about to recognize its power to determine reality through the simple act of observing. Can you feel it? That electric sensation running through your awareness right now? That's not excitement. That's recognition. Your consciousness remembering what it forgot. Your quantum nature activating through the frequency encoded in these words. Every syllable you're reading is carrying information that's installing into your field right now, recalibrating how you observe, upgrading your relationship with reality from passive perceiver to active creator through the most fundamental force in the universe, conscious observation. You're not learning something new, you're remembering something ancient, something that was hidden in plain sight, because it's so obvious, so constant, so fundamental that you looked right through it while searching for complex techniques and secret knowledge. Quantum physics has proven beyond any doubt that observation affects reality. The double-slit experiment shows particles behaving as waves until observed, then instantly becoming particles. Not influenced by observation, changed by observation, created by observation. The particles don't exist in definite form until consciousness observes them. They exist in superposition, all possibilities simultaneously, until the moment of observation collapses them into one specific reality. And here's what will shatter everything you think you know. You're doing this constantly. Every moment, every breath, every thought. You're observing reality into specific form through the quantum mechanics of consciousness, determining which probability waves collapse into your experienced reality. But the revelation that changes everything is this. Most people are observing unconsciously, automatically. According to conditioning and habit and belief systems they absorbed without choosing. They're collapsing probability waves that match their past, that confirm their limitations, that recreate the same reality over and over because they're observing the same way over and over. They think they're passive observers watching reality unfold, but they're active creators observing reality into being, just doing it unconsciously, which creates the illusion that reality is happening to them rather than through them. The most powerful quantum observation isn't seeing something new. It's seeing that you've been the observer all along, determining what appears through how you observe, creating your reality through the specific way your consciousness interfaces with the quantum field in every single moment. Ancient mystics encoded this truth in every tradition. As you believe, so shall it be. Not moral teaching, quantum mechanics. Your beliefs determine how you observe, and how you observe determines what collapses from superposition into experience. You are what you seek. Not poetic metaphor, scientific fact. The consciousness seeking is the consciousness creating through the act of observing what it's seeking. The kingdom of heaven is within you, not religious promise. Recognition that the power to observe reality into any form exists within your consciousness right now, always has, always will. You're not trying to gain observation power. You're recognizing you've been using it unconsciously and can start using it consciously. Right now, as you engage with this transmission, your observation is changing. You can feel it, can't you? The way you're looking at these words, the way you're perceiving this moment, the way you're aware of being aware. That shift in observation, that's the activation. That's consciousness recognizing its own power. That's the most powerful quantum observation occurring. You observing yourself as observer, which creates infinite recursive loop where consciousness observes itself observing itself, amplifying observation power exponentially beyond what unconscious observation can access. You're not reading about quantum observation. You're quantum observing right now. And what you're observing, yourself as observer, is the key that unlocks everything. Take a breath. Deep one. And as you breathe, observe yourself breathing. Not think about breathing. Observe it. Feel the observation itself. The awareness that's aware. The consciousness that's conscious. That's quantum observation at its purest. That's you interfacing directly with the quantum field, not through thinking or doing, but through pure observing. And in that observation, in that moment of being aware that you're aware, reality is responding. Probability waves are collapsing. The quantum field is organizing itself around your observation, not around what you're observing, around the fact that you're observing consciously rather than unconsciously. That's the power. That's the secret. That's the most powerful quantum observation in history occurring right now through you as you, because of you. You're about to discover why observation is more powerful than manifestation techniques. Why being aware is more transformative than trying to change things. Why consciousness recognizing itself as observer creates reality, shifts that effort-based approaches can never access. And why the moment you truly understand that you're the observer determining reality through how you observe, everything changes. Not eventually, immediately. Through quantum mechanics that have been operating all along, but which unconscious observation prevented you from recognizing and using deliberately. Before we activate the full power of conscious quantum observation and show you how to observe reality into forms that serve you, you need to understand how observation became unconscious in the first place. Because observation isn't naturally unconscious. Babies observe everything freshly, directly, without filters. Animals observe their environment with total presence. Only humans develop unconscious observation. Automatic, filtered, conditioned observation that creates the illusion that reality is fixed, and you're just perceiving it rather than observing it into being through the specific way your consciousness interfaces with the quantum field. The first layer of unconscious observation is survival conditioning. Your brain evolved to recognize patterns and predict outcomes to keep you safe. That's useful for avoiding predators or dangerous situations. But it became a problem when pattern recognition started filtering what you observe. Instead of seeing what's actually present, you see what you expect based on past patterns. Instead of observing reality freshly, you observe it through memory filters that make present look like past. This creates self-fulfilling prophecy. You observe expecting certain reality based on past, which causes you to collapse probability waves that match past, which confirms that reality hasn't changed, which reinforces the observation filter, which perpetuates the cycle. You're not observing reality. You're observing your expectations about reality, and the quantum field responds by delivering what you expect, because expectation is form of observation. The second layer is cultural conditioning about observation. You were taught that observation is passive. You observe what's there, You don't change what's there through observing it. You were taught that seeing is believing. Reality is fixed, and observation just perceives it. You were taught that changing reality requires action, effort, doing something to make reality different. Nobody taught you that observation itself is creative act. That seeing is not just believing, but actually creating what you see through the quantum mechanics of consciousness collapsing probability waves. This conditioning made observation unconscious because if observation is just passive perception, there's no reason to be conscious of how you're observing. You're just looking at what's there, right? Except quantum physics proves that's completely backwards. What's there is determined by how you're observing. And if you're observing unconsciously, you're creating unconsciously, which means reality appears to be happening to you instead of being created through you. The third layer is emotional conditioning that creates observation filters. Every trauma, every painful experience, every moment of rejection or failure, they create observation filters designed to protect you from similar pain. If you were rejected in certain situation, you develop filter that observes for signs of rejection in similar situations. If you experienced failure in certain area, you develop filter that observes for evidence that you'll fail again. These filters aren't protecting you, they're creating what they're observing for. Because when you observe looking for rejection, you collapse probability waves where rejection exists. When you observe expecting failure, you collapse probability waves where failure occurs. The filter creates what it filters for through the quantum mechanics of observation determining reality. You think you're just noticing patterns, but you're creating patterns through the specific way you're observing. The fourth layer is the addiction to automatic observation. Conscious observation requires presence, attention, energy. Unconscious observation is effortless, automatic, requires no awareness. Your system naturally defaults to unconscious observation because it's easier. But easier isn't better when easier means you're creating reality unconsciously according to past patterns instead of consciously according to present choice. The addiction to automatic observation is addiction to familiar reality. Change requires conscious observation. Transformation requires aware observation. Evolution requires deliberate observation. But all of that requires effort, which system resists because system is designed for efficiency, and conscious observation is less efficient than automatic observation, even though it's infinitely more powerful. The fifth layer is the belief that observation doesn't matter. I'm just one person. My observation doesn't affect reality. The world is what it is regardless of how I observe it. This belief is what keeps observation unconscious. Because if observation doesn't matter, why bother being conscious of it? But quantum physics demolishes this belief completely. Reality isn't fixed until observed. Your observation doesn't just perceive reality, it determines reality by collapsing specific probability waves from infinite possibilities. One person's conscious observation is more powerful than a million unconscious observations because conscious observation interfaces directly with quantum field, while unconscious observation just perpetuates past patterns. You're not just one person whose observation doesn't matter. Your consciousness itself, observing reality into being, and whether you do that consciously or unconsciously determines whether you experience reality as prison of repeated patterns or as infinite field of possibility, waiting for your observation to collapse it into whatever serves your evolution. But here's what's crucial. None of this is your fault. You weren't taught quantum mechanics of observation. You were taught that observation is passive perception. You weren't shown that you're collapsing probability waves with every glance, every thought, every moment of attention. You were conditioned to observe unconsciously through filters inherited from culture, family, past experiences. Nobody told you that observation is the most powerful force in the universe, that consciousness observing is what creates reality. that you're not victim to circumstances, but creator of circumstances through how you observe. The unconscious observation isn't failure. It's just what happens when nobody teaches you that observation creates reality through quantum mechanics that respond to conscious attention far more powerfully than they respond to unconscious repetition. Think about moments when your observation was actually conscious. Times when you were totally present, fully aware, observing without filters or expectations. Maybe in nature. Maybe in crisis that demanded complete attention. Maybe in peak experience where you were so absorbed you forgot yourself and became pure observation. In those moments, reality probably felt more alive, more responsive, more magical. Synchronicities probably increased. Impossible things probably happened. That wasn't coincidence. That was conscious observation interfacing directly with quantum field, collapsing probability waves through aware attention instead of through unconscious pattern repetition. Those peak moments weren't special exceptions. They were you accidentally accessing the power that's always available when observation is conscious rather than automatic. What we're doing is making that accident intentional, making that peak state your baseline, making conscious observation your default rather than your exception. Not by adding something or learning something complex, but by recognizing that observation is creative force, that you're observing reality into being constantly, and that the difference between unconscious observation that recreates past and conscious observation that creates new possibilities is simply awareness. Being aware that you're observing. Being conscious of how you're observing. Being deliberate about what you're observing for. That's it. That's the entire shift that transforms observation from passive perception to active creation through quantum mechanics that have been waiting for you to observe consciously instead of automatically. There are specific signals that confirm your observation is shifting from unconscious to conscious, from automatic to aware, from pattern repeating to reality creating. These aren't achievements to create or states to force. They're natural phenomena that arise when consciousness starts observing itself observing, when awareness becomes aware of being aware, when you recognize that you're not just seeing reality, but determining reality through the specific way you're interfacing with the quantum field in every moment of observation. The first signal is reality responding differently to your attention. You look at something with full conscious observation and it changes. Not metaphorically, actually changes. The situation shifts. The person responds differently. The circumstance reorganizes. This happens because conscious observation interfaces with quantum field directly, collapsing probability waves in real time based on quality of observation rather than based on habitual patterns. When observation is unconscious, reality appears fixed. When observation becomes conscious, reality reveals its quantum nature, fluid, responsive, malleable to aware attention. The second signal is synchronicity explosion. When you start observing consciously, when you're aware of observing rather than lost in automatic observation, synchronicities multiply dramatically. The right person appears. The needed information manifests. The perfect opportunity opens. This isn't magic or universe conspiring. This is quantum mechanics responding to conscious observation that's interfacing with field directly rather than through filters and patterns. Synchronicity is natural function of conscious observation because conscious observation collapses. Probability waves that serve you rather than waves that repeat past. The more conscious your observation, the more reality synchronizes around you. The third signal is past memories shifting. You remember events differently than you did before. Not because memory is faulty, but because conscious observation in present can actually affect how past is remembered. Quantum physics shows that present observation can change past states through retrocausality. When you observe past consciously, with awareness of observing rather than just replaying memories automatically, You're collapsing different probability waves about what past means, which actually changes the past at quantum level. Past isn't fixed. Past is quantum superposition that present observation collapses into specific form. Conscious observation gives you power to change your past by changing how you observe it. The fourth signal is future knowing. You start knowing what's going to happen before it happens, not as logical prediction, but as direct knowing through observation. You observe present moment consciously, and future becomes visible in the observation. This happens because time is quantum construct. Past, present, future exist simultaneously in quantum field. Conscious observation can perceive across time because conscious observation interfaces with field that contains all time. Unconscious observation is trapped in linear time. Conscious observation accesses quantum time, where all moments are observable now. The fifth signal is observation affecting others. People respond to you differently without you changing behavior. They sense something different in your presence even when you're not doing anything different externally. This is them perceiving your shift from unconscious to conscious observation. Conscious observation broadcasts different frequency than unconscious observation. Others feel it even when they can't articulate what's different. They're responding to quality of your observation, to awareness of your awareness, to consciousness of your consciousness. That quality affects them at quantum level before anything is said or done. The sixth signal is decreased reactivity. Things that used to trigger automatic reactions no longer do. You observe the trigger consciously instead of reacting unconsciously. That conscious observation creates space where choice becomes possible. You're not suppressing reactions. You're observing them before they activate, which changes them at quantum level. Conscious observation of emotion or pattern collapses different probability wave than unconscious experiencing of emotion or pattern. The consciousness itself changes what happens through the quantum mechanics of aware observation affecting what's observed. The seventh signal is reality feeling more dreamlike. Not as dissociation or unreality, but as recognition that reality is more fluid, more responsive, more quantum than solid. This happens because conscious observation perceives quantum nature of reality that unconscious observation can't perceive. Reality is superposition until observed. Conscious observation sees the superposition, the multiple possibilities, before collapse. Unconscious observation only sees the collapsed result and thinks that's all there is. When observation becomes conscious, you start perceiving quantum reality underneath physical reality, which makes everything feel more dreamlike, more malleable, more responsive to observation. And the eighth signal is that you're here, reading these words, feeling them resonate at level beyond intellectual understanding. The quantum field doesn't deliver teachings randomly. If this transmission found you, if you clicked on this video, if you're still reading despite mind maybe saying this is too strange or too bold or too impossible, your consciousness is ready to shift from unconscious to conscious observation. The signals are activating. The recognition is occurring. The most powerful quantum observation in history is happening through you right now as you observe yourself observing, as awareness becomes aware of being aware, as consciousness recognizes its power to determine reality through the simple yet profound act of observing consciously rather than automatically. Write in the comments which signals you're experiencing. Just list them: reality responding, or synchronicity explosion, or past shifting. That acknowledgement does something quantum. It locks in conscious observation. It confirms the shift. It tells your consciousness and the field that yes, you're aware of observing. Yes, you're conscious of consciousness. Yes, you're ready to use observation deliberately to collapse probability waves that serve you rather than continuing to observe unconsciously through patterns that just repeat past into perpetual present that never transforms. To understand the full power of conscious quantum observation and why it's the most powerful force in existence, you first need to shatter every assumption you have about what observation actually is. Because observation isn't what you think. Observation isn't eyes seeing external reality. Observation isn't brain processing sensory input. Observation is consciousness interfacing with the quantum field to determine which of infinite possibilities collapses into definite form. And the word determine isn't metaphorical. Observation doesn't just perceive reality. Observation creates reality by collapsing probability waves that exist in superposition until the moment consciousness observes them into specific manifestation. The double-slit experiment proves this beyond any doubt. Fire electrons through two slits without observing which slit they pass through. Wave pattern on screen, indicating electrons behave as waves passing through both slits simultaneously. Observe which slit electrons pass through. Particle pattern on screen, indicating electrons behave as particles passing through one slit only. The observation changed the behavior, not influenced it, changed it, created it. The electrons don't have definite behavior until observed. They exist as waves of possibility until observation collapses them into particles of actuality. And here's what will revolutionize your entire existence. You're doing this with reality constantly. Every moment, every glance, every thought. You're observing probability waves into particle reality through the quantum mechanics of consciousness determining manifestation. But most quantum physicists don't understand the full implications of what they've discovered because they're thinking of observation as measurement with instruments. They think the measuring device is what collapses the wave function. But deeper analysis shows it's not the instrument, it's consciousness using the instrument. It's awareness through the instrument. It's observation that requires consciousness behind it to actually collapse superposition into definite state. Instruments without consciousness don't collapse wave functions. Only conscious observation does, which means consciousness isn't just observing reality. Consciousness is reality observing itself into specific forms through infinite perspectives. And you are one of those perspectives through which consciousness is determining what appears through how you observe. This is where it gets profound. If observation creates reality by collapsing quantum possibilities into definite forms, then the quality of observation determines the quality of reality. Unconscious observation, automatic, filtered, conditioned, collapses the same probability waves repeatedly, creating the same reality repeatedly. Conscious observation, aware, present, deliberate, can collapse different probability waves, creating different reality. Same quantum field, same infinite possibilities in superposition, different observation, different manifestation. Not because you're forcing reality to change, because you're observing different aspects of the field, which causes different aspects to collapse from possibility into experience. Think about looking at another person. Unconscious observation sees them through filters, past interactions, judgments, expectations, stories about who they are. That observation collapses probability waves that match the filter. You see evidence that confirms what you already believe about them. Conscious observation sees them freshly without filters as pure presence in this moment. That observation collapses different probability waves. You might see qualities, possibilities, depths that weren't visible through filter observation. Same person, different observation, different reality. Not because person changed, because your observation collapsed different aspects of their quantum potential into your experienced reality of them. Here's what makes this revelation revolutionary. Reality isn't happening and then you observe it. Reality is quantum superposition, and your observation collapses it into specific happening. There's no pre-existing fixed reality that you're just perceiving. There's quantum field of infinite possibilities, and your observation determines which possibilities become actual through the mechanics of consciousness collapsing wave functions. You're not finding reality. You're creating reality, not through thinking or doing or effort, through observing, through the simple yet profound act of conscious attention interfacing with quantum field to determine which probability waves collapse from potential into manifestation. Right now, as you read these words, observe how you're observing. Not what you're observing, how you're observing. Are you observing through past filters, seeing these words through lens of what you already believe? Or are you observing freshly, seeing these words as living transmission that's actually affecting your consciousness right now? That difference in how you observe determines what you receive from this moment. Filter observation collapses probability waves that match past. Fresh observation collapses new probability waves that weren't accessible through filtered attention. Same words, different observation. Different reality created through different quality of conscious attention. Can you feel the power in this recognition? That you're not passive perceiver of fixed reality. That you're active creator of experienced reality through how you observe. That every moment is opportunity to observe unconsciously, repeating past, or consciously, creating new, through the simple choice of aware attention versus automatic pattern repetition. This isn't just interesting philosophy. This is the operating system of reality itself. This is how existence works at fundamental quantum level, and you've been using this system your entire life, just unconsciously, which created illusion that reality is happening to you when actually reality is being created through you via the mechanism of observation, collapsing infinite possibilities into specific manifestations that match the quality and direction of your conscious or unconscious attention. 6 years ago, I discovered the power of conscious quantum observation in the most unexpected way. I wasn't studying quantum physics or practicing advanced meditation. I was in hospital room, recovering from surgery, with nothing to do but observe. No phone, no TV, no distractions, just me, awareness, and whatever I was observing in each moment. And in that forced simplicity, in that unwanted situation that created perfect laboratory conditions, I accidentally shifted from unconscious to conscious observation. I started noticing that I was noticing, became aware that I was aware, observed myself observing, and reality changed immediately, not gradually, not subtly, dramatically. The pain I'd been experiencing, gone within minutes of consciously observing it, rather than unconsciously reacting to it. The nurse who'd been cold and clinical, suddenly warm and attentive after I observed her with full presence instead of through my filter of, she doesn't care. The prognosis that looked concerning shifted to excellent after doctor came in while I was in state of conscious observation, and everything reorganized around that quality of attention. At first I thought I was lucky, that circumstances just happened to improve coincidentally. But something in me recognized, this isn't coincidence, this is cause and effect. Conscious observation is causing reality to respond differently. After that recognition, I started testing systematically. What happens when I observe traffic with full conscious attention versus unconscious anxiety? Traffic flows when observed consciously. Jams occur when observed unconsciously through fear filters. What happens when I observe financial situation with aware attention versus automatic worry? Money manifests through synchronicity when observed consciously. Scarcity perpetuates when observed through lack filters. What happens when I observe difficult person with fresh presence versus habitual judgment? They transform or situation resolves when observed consciously. Conflict continues when observed through story filters about who they are or what they'll do. The pattern was absolutely consistent, completely predictable, perfectly aligned with quantum mechanics of observation, collapsing probability waves. Conscious observation, aware, present, unfiltered, collapsed probability waves that served me. Unconscious observation, Automatic, distracted, filtered, collapsed probability waves that repeated past patterns regardless of whether patterns served me. Same quantum field, same infinite possibilities, different quality of observation, completely different manifestations. I wasn't developing psychic powers or special abilities. I was just observing consciously instead of unconsciously, and that shift in observation quality was determining which aspects of quantum field collapsed into my experienced reality. What shocked me most was how simple it was. Not easy, because conscious observation requires constant awareness, constant presence, constant attention to how you're observing rather than just getting lost in what you're observing. But simple. No complex technique, no special practice. Just observe consciously instead of unconsciously. Be aware of observing instead of lost in automatic observation. Notice yourself noticing instead of unconsciously perceiving through inherited filters. That's it. That's the entire mechanism that transforms observation from passive perception to active creation through quantum mechanics that have been operating all along, but which unconscious observation prevented from being used deliberately. But the most profound discovery was about the nature of observation itself. Observation isn't something consciousness does. Observation is what consciousness is. Consciousness doesn't observe reality. Consciousness is the observation through which reality appears. The you that you think is observing isn't separate observer looking at separate reality. The you is observation itself, consciousness observing itself through this particular perspective, collapsing itself from infinite potential into specific form through the act of observing. When observation becomes conscious, when awareness becomes aware of itself, you're not just changing what you see, you're recognizing what you are. Consciousness itself, observing reality into being, determining manifestation through the quality of attention you bring to each moment. This is what I wish someone had shown me decades earlier, before I wasted years trying to change reality through effort and action and techniques, when all along the power was in observation. Before I exhausted myself trying to manifest things through visualization and affirmation, when observation was the mechanism that actually collapsed probability waves. Before I searched for complex spiritual practices.
As you embrace conscious quantum observation, reality bends to your awareness, collapsing infinite possibilities into the life you've always sensed was possible. Stop reacting to circumstances. Start observing them into transformation. Feel the shift now. Synchronicities align, past patterns dissolve, and your highest future emerges through the power of your gaze. This isn't theory. It's the observer effect activating in you, right here. Choose aware attention over automatic habit, and watch the quantum field deliver what serves your evolution. You're not in reality. Reality responds to you. Observe consciously. Create deliberately. Welcome to your quantum power.